So I'm curious, what are some hands-on skills that people can use to practice empathy, curiosity, and working through fear? Right? Because I noticed those were kind of those kind of the big points you talked about.
First, I would say give yourself permission.
Okay.
So many of us have been taught, whether through society or well-intentioned parents that were maybe a little misguided or things like that, that we were not, our feelings aren't valid or our instincts are off. So, for example, um, I was with my niece the other day, and she's so in tune, and she's younger, she's in her teens, and she asked, Jesse, are you mad at me? And I was, my instinct was, no, I'm not mad at you. Like, because I wasn't. But what I was feeling was I was feeling upset because I was still in grief with my father
Mhm.
dying. And, there's some people in the world that may believe like we don't want to, the younger person to have to worry about the grief or whatever. And I definitely wanted to protect her in ways, but I also wanted to validate her feelings. And so the way I approached it with her was, you know what, you're right, you're sensing something off. Let me tell you what's really going on, because I want her to develop that strength, that trust that she was sensing something. She's like spot on. And that way, when she's out in the world with other people, like she, has those skills. And so if somebody's 70 and they haven't had that gift of somebody really validating their feelings or affirming,
Mhm.
um, I think it starts with ourselves, giving ourselves permission to believe we have these gifts. And then you can just journal and practice and take notes and say, okay, what am I noticing today?
Mhm.
What am I sensing? What am I feeling? What kind of energy am I aware of right now? So that would be one way to develop empathy, I think. I'm sure there's a lot of other ways, but
Well, I think that's a really good way to develop it because I also feel like it's developing curiosity because those questions that you asked are kind of open-ended. They're making you think about like, man, what is going on? What's around me? What's in me? What am I feeling? What do I think they are feeling? Right? I know, I think that's awesome.
yeah. And with curiosity, one thing that I teach my clients is you've got to say at least six other possibilities before you draw a conclusion. So frequently we'll
Mhm.
draw a conclusion about a situation, right?
Yeah.
So you call me and you say, "Oh, I've got to cancel our meeting," and I'm like, it's because he doesn't want to talk to me, like, or whatever. And
Yeah.
like, and you miss like what really is going on because we're so myopic, right? And I
Right.
call it the me bias, that we see the world through the way we experience it and how we would act. So I assume everybody is going to act the same way. Well, no, we all are so different. And so if we can remove that bias
Mhm.
and get curious and say, okay, what are other six possibilities? Okay, oh, maybe school's starting and he actually wanted to be with his kids, right? And or maybe one of the kids got sick and needed some extra time, or maybe the technology is not working, or, it's
Mhm.
curiosity can come in so many ways. And I think curiosity leads to a deeper connection because it allows us to really see and acknowledge the other person. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we all want. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so getting curious, but then I think that also requires us to be vulnerable. So when somebody's curious with us, we've got to share openly as well.
Mhm.
And by modeling it, then other people will do it with us as well.
Right.
So
No, I think that's so
some
cool
ideas.
and it's so true. And I love that you pointed like, and I don't know if you did this intentionally, right? But when you talked about, hey, he's canceling, he doesn't want to talk to me, right? Like typically the first response that people have is negative, right? And I see that a lot in my life that people just kind of assume the worst about the world. And it's not like, it's more, in my opinion, a protective part of people just trying to keep themselves safe. But the minute you said, well, what are other things? The first thing was something generous, right? He just wants to be with his kids. Maybe technology isn't working, right? And that curiosity is what allows you to like to find that generosity in people, and that creates a much more loving environment for everybody, right? Because it's like, even if you just had those two, going from the he doesn't want to talk to me to he just wants to be with his kids, opens up so much more opportunity for like growth and understanding and stuff. So no, I think that's truly amazing, and the vulnerability is also a really important part. So thank you. And then, so the fear, how can people learn to embrace fear?
Hmm. Learning to embrace fear. That one, I want to offer this idea is we can live from a place of fear or we can live from a place of love. And it's in the awareness and the intentionality of our choices that can change the trajectory of our lives. And making choices from a place of fear isn't necessarily bad or wrong, but it might block us from what we truly want. So, for example, if somebody wants to quit their job and start working at the wellness center with you, right?
Mhm.
Um, Fear might say, well, I'm not qualified enough.
Mhm.
I don't have enough experience. I'll never make any money really doing what I love. Like all of that is fear-based thinking.
Right.
And like you said, there's like this, it's almost like a protective mechanism. I believe it comes from maybe the ego or something like that. And
Mhm.
by playing small, you're more contained, and then potentially less things will happen to you. I think that's kind of an illusion. Things are going to happen. Life's going to happen no matter where you are. So you may as well be doing what you love, right?
Right.
And so love-based thinking is, I'm going to figure it out. Chase is an awesome person. He's going to help and mentor me. And there's classes I can take. And you know what? This is so important to me. I'm going to get a second job. So until I can actually make enough money being a healer, then, so it's like just becoming aware of where your thinking is coming from. And for me, Chase, journaling was the best tool for identifying that because I
Oh,
could slow down and really look at, oh, look at that. That's coming from a place of fear. The other thing is sometimes having somebody reflect back to you. I if you're blessed and you can have a life coach, great. But sometimes it's just a coffee friend that is
mhm.
willing to be honest with you and say, well, why are you thinking that way?
Mhm.
And sometimes somebody else's perspective will really help open up the possibilities. So, and then I would unwind what the fear is. You can keep kind of going lower and where's the fear coming from so you can get to the root.
Mhm.
And I feel like once we illuminate where the fear is coming from, it helps to dissolve it. Sometimes there's nothing to even do other than just give it a voice and then it disappears.